One day I was in the yard, and there comes Göth. You know, he used to ride a white horse. And he stopped, he says, Susanna? He says, where is Adam? I looked up at him, I said, I don't know. I saw him on his horse very quickly down the road. Before I knew, I hear 2 shots. He killed him.
In the pages of history, there are names that resonate with a dark echo, evoking images of unimaginable horror and cruelty. One of them is Amon Göth, the sinister butcher of Krakow. In the turbulent land of Nazi-occupied Poland during World War II, this dark character emerged as an undisputed figure of terror, instilling fear and suffering wherever he went. Known for his ruthless brutality and total lack of humanity towards Jews, he became a symbol of evil, a figure that personified the most violent and depraved aspects of human nature to that people. In today's video, we will explore the life and crimes of this infamous individual, unraveling the massacres he perpetrated and the nightmares he left etched into the minds of those who witnessed his macabre acts. Welcome, once again, to military history. Amon Göth, born on December 11, 1908 in Vienna, grew up in a privileged Catholic family immersed in the prosperous publishing industry of the time. From an early age, his destiny seemed intertwined with the dark paths of radical nationalism, which was already aggressive and sectarian even before the official emergence of the Nazis. At the age of 17, he abandoned his studies to embrace the ranks of the Hitler Youth, immersing himself in a world marked by violence and fanaticism. His trajectory was forged in the heat of the political confrontations of the time. In the turbulent years following World War I, Göth joined the Steirischer Heimatschutzverband Wien, a radical faction with anti-Semitic overtones that was part of the Heimwehr, a nationalist paramilitary group in Austria. Over time, he found his place of belonging in the ranks of the Nazi Party, earning the prestigious title of Alter Kämpfer. This award made him a veteran participant in the Nazi movement at a very young age, even before Hitler managed to seize the political stage in Germany. This young fanatic's official entry into the SS came in 1938, and his rise was meteoric. From his early days in the 2 significant Austrian SS factions, the Truppendaimel and the Sturmlebardi, to his subsequent role as an assistant in the 52nd Estandarte platoon, Göth stood out for his ferocity and loyalty to the regime. It was clear that his career would be marked by violence and the thirst for power. Taking advantage of his position, he became involved in arms and radio smuggling, getting caught up in a world of crime and corruption. This cost him his freedom for a few months, but his connections with Nazism managed to free him. In these tumultuous years for Germany, the Führer's coup was imminent, and the party needed its most loyal followers close by, ready to spread terror on German soil. For this reason, Göth had a residence in this country until Hitler seized power. Before delving into the Nazi reign, let's listen to one of the survivors describe the terrifying butcher.
Describir al carnicero aterradoramente.
Przede wszystkim był sadystą, ale w postaci pięknego człowieka to bym nie uwierzyła nigdy w takim człowieku takich szatan. Muszę się zapoznać. Morderca, żonny krwi.
Göth's reputation for brutality and excesses spread quickly. He was so aggressive towards detractors of the doctrine that even his own peers feared him. he became synonymous with bloodthirsty violence and inhumane cruelty. He was even accused of the murder of Austrian Chancellor Engelbert Dollfuss, a crime that brought him to the attention of authorities. Once again, his connections in the Nazi hierarchy helped him obtain a pass to freedom. But in exchange, they requested his services. This request led him to the dark confines of the SS training camp near the sinister extermination site of Dachau, where his fate would become forever entwined with the horrors of the Holocaust. After the annexation of Austria by Germany, Göth returned to Vienna, where he continued his activities with the Nazi Party. During World War II, he distinguished himself for his expertise as an administrator in the Jewish question, as the Reich disdainfully called it. In other words, he was a man who did not hesitate to kill the undesirables of the regime, whether they were men, elderly, women, or children. His ruthless efforts to relocate or eliminate the Jewish population of Europe earned him a promotion to SS sub-lieutenant. In 1942, Göth was transferred to Lublin, Poland, where, under the orders of the SS brigade Führer in the area, he participated in the so-called Operation Reinhard, the plan aimed at the heartless murder of all Polish Jews. The operation was a prelude and rehearsal for the Holocaust. It lasted 6 months, and the extermination camps of Plaszow, Bełżec, Sobibor, Treblinka, Majdanek, and Chełmno were established. This operation bore the name in honor of Reinhard Heydrich, also known as the Butcher of Prague, one of the highest idols of today's video protagonist. Göth was assigned to the Totenkopfverbände unit, one of the fearsome SS Death's Head units, where he supervised the construction of the Plaszow concentration camp in Krakow, of which he eventually became the commander. The facilities were erected in a month, using slave labor from the ghetto of this city. Those deemed unfit for work were deported directly to extermination camps, while hundreds more were executed on the streets during the eviction. In the opening speech of the Plaszow camp, the newly appointed commandant Amon Göth proclaimed his absolute authority with words that sent shivers down the spine of everyone present. "I am your God." That was the declaration heard by all prisoners, terrified at the prospect of their future. The position of camp commander granted him unlimited power, allowing him to impose his will on the captives with total impunity. Listen to what he made the prisoners of the camp do. The facts are truly heartbreaking.
I myself, with a group of other boys, had to unload the people who were shot. In one case, we asked a German, because a young kid was there and wasn't dead yet. And we asked her, would you give a Gnade-Schuss? A Gnade. Gnade is the word like a kindness. So we will not bury you alive. And he said, throw it in, it's a schade. He said, it's a shame to waste a bullet on that schmutzig Jude. And we had to pour gasoline over them, and we kept on burning them.
There are testimonies that describe Göth as a being with the coldness of a machine, only programmed to kill. Others directly define it as an animal that enjoyed smelling the blood of its prey and enjoyed seeing it suffering. Yet even from this twisted and heartless being came a glimmer of mercy. In 1943, during his birthday celebration, he ordered the famous Jewish concert pianist Natalia Karp to play the piano for him. The trembling woman chose to perform Chopin's Nocturne in C minor, a piece that brought with it a moment of calm and beauty in the midst of horror. Impressed by the pianist's talent, the ruthless commander decided to spare the lives of her and her sister, an unusual act of mercy in that hell. However, this act of mercy was nothing more than an exception. Among the most remembered atrocities of this character, it stands out when he ordered the arrival of thousands of Hungarian Jews to Plazow. Since the camp was overcrowded, he organized systematic executions, sacrificing innocent lives to make room for more prisoners. The children were rounded up in a kindergarten, only to be sent to Auschwitz the next day, an act of pure sadism on the commander's part. However, of his actions, acts of administrative cruelty were not the only thing that caused terror. Göth had a particular enjoyment of bloody deaths. Every day he carried out murders with the help of his dogs, Rolf and Ralph. These animals were his sinister accomplices, trained to attack and tear the flesh of prisoners. Among the butcher's favorite activities was shooting prisoners who stopped or rested in the courtyard from the window of his office. He fired without mercy or remorse and laughed when he saw the lifeless bodies fall. Below you will see a recreation of those moments. His evil and violence were excessive. A cook was murdered simply for bringing him soup that was too hot. He truly believed himself to be the god of the captives, and he could decide when they lived and when they died. Göth's law was simple. If one prisoner escaped, the entire group was to be punished. He did not hesitate to carry out the executions. He even greatly enjoyed being the one to take the lives of the inmates. In its days of maximum terror, the Plazow camp, designed to house 2,000 inmates, saw its population grow to an impressive 25,000 prisoners. More than 150,000 souls passed through its squalid facilities before being sent to other death camps. Meanwhile, Göth enjoyed a life of luxury within the same hell that he himself had created. He resided in an ostentatious villa, surrounded by horses and carriages, with a personal shoemaker who made him a new pair of shoes every week. The perverse commander believed that his existence was going to be that until the end of his days, living opulently while he enjoyed tormenting Jews. However, an unexpected setback awaited the tyrant. On September 13, 1944, Göth was removed from office and accused of a series of crimes that the Nazis themselves considered heinous. The crimes ranged from the theft of Jewish property to the systematic mistreatment of prisoners in his custody. This last action was frowned upon by the High Command because they wanted the international press to side with the Reich. But the imminent defeat of Germany in World War II would change Göth's destiny. The charges against him were dropped in early 1945 because the party needed its most fanatical men at its disposal. However, shortly afterward, he was diagnosed with a mental illness and confined to a psychiatric hospital in Bad Tölz. In May 1945, once the war ended, the evil Commandant Göth was captured by the American Army under the command of General Patton. Although he tried to hide his true identity, his evil story did not remain masked for long. When he was taken to a prison camp on the grounds of the former Dachau concentration camp, a brave and determined figure dared to identify him. Who was the person who dared to unmask the fearsome Göth? Józef Lewkowicz was just a 13-year-old teenager when he was a prisoner in a concentration camp in 1938. He would never forget when the shadow of the creepy Butcher of Plazow hovered over him with the cold gaze of death. In his testimony, the young man says that he was dismantling what remained of a Jewish cemetery. Together with other colleagues, he had to extract the wrought iron fence from the site, which weighed 150 tons. to make weapons for the Nazis and which would be used to murder millions of innocent people throughout Europe. Iosef was at the top of the fence, carefully removing the bricks, when the imposing figure of Amon Göth appeared, mounted on his horse and flanked by his two savage, murderous dogs. In his own words, he said, "When I saw Göth approaching, I felt a chill run down my spine. Those dogs had attacked me before. That time, in a desperate attempt to protect myself, I had raised my hands to cover my face. The dogs bit me fiercely, and the scars from the attack were etched into my skin forever." Due to the fright, the boy would commit something reckless. From his position at the top of the building, his task was to carefully extract each brick and pass it to another prisoner. But when Göth approached, he hurriedly threw, and the other prisoner dropped him. Without hesitation, the commander shot the inmate in the head. Iosef was left trembling, while the butcher enjoyed the scene. The commander then ordered him to throw a brick at him. Frightened, Iosef threw him a piece that Göth dropped on purpose. Then the evil officer pointed his gun directly at the young Jew's eyes. The boy remembered his reaction. "I recited the Shema Israel and lost consciousness." When he woke up days later in the infirmary, the young man lay in pain with his body wrapped in bandages. The details of what happened were revealed to him later, when he met with the SS officer, KlLLED, one of Göth's assistants, who had been present at that fateful moment. The officer had recognized Iosef because he had previously volunteered to shine his shoes. The Nazi saved his life, as the commander planned to shoot him. Before the murder took place, he hit the boy hard on the head and left him for dead, telling Göth that a Jew was not worth wasting a bullet on. This scene is another act of unexpected mercy on the part of a member of the Reich. In May 1945, with the war just over, Iosef was a 20-year-old communist activist facing a titanic challenge: finding hidden Nazi war criminals. Thanks to his tireless efforts, he managed to rescue 600 Jewish orphans and embarked on the search for those responsible for past atrocities. On one occasion, while investigating a prison camp near Vienna, the young Hebrew noticed a soldier who did not seem to fit in among the captives. He approached the supposed Wehrmacht private and felt his blood boil. That imposter was none other than Amon Göth hiding his identity. Driven by years of anguish and pent-up rage, Iosef confronted the bloodthirsty officer, yelling at him, spitting on him, and beating him mercilessly. The Plazov butcher was then arrested, tried and sentenced to death for his crimes. Although the evil tyrant seemed resigned to his fate, the Polish government demanded his extradition to face justice on the ground where he committed most of his atrocities. For Iosef, this prolongation of Göth's suffering was a just punishment for his horrible actions. The grim and long-awaited day of judgment of this dark character finally arrived. Between August 27 and September 5, 1946, the Polish National Supreme Court, recognized by the Allied armies, conducted the trial against the former camp commander. Göth appeared impassive in the face of the charges against him. He maintained that he simply followed orders and directives from his superiors. He stated that the sanctions applied during his tenure in the camp, including the death penalty, were within his disciplinary jurisdiction as his commander and were in accordance with current German regulations. The verdict was lapidary: guilty of murder for killing, mutilating, and torturing a large, uncountable number of people. It was the first ruling of its kind in a war crimes trial. Göth was sentenced to death, and on September 13, 1946, in Montelupich prison in Krakow, he paid with his life for his horrendous crimes. Finally, after 2 failed attempts at hanging, the Butcher of Plasov met his final fate on the gallows. His last words echoed in the courtroom, as if they were a nightmare of ideological fanaticism. He just shouted enthusiastically, "Heil Hitler!" His body was cremated, and his ashes were thrown into the Vistula River, thus marking the end of one of the most infamous executioners of the Second World War. Let's look at some rudimentary footage of his hanging. After justice sentenced Amon Göth for crimes that tore humanity apart, his infamous legacy was imprinted in the history of cinema, thanks to the masterful representation of Ralph Fiennes in Steven Spielberg's Schindler's List. With an imposing performance, the actor embodied the brutality and contempt for human life that characterized the Butcher of Plasov. During filming, when Mila Pfefferberg, a survivor of that concentration camp, met Fiennes, the scene took a surprising turn. Seeing him dressed in the SS uniform, Mila shuddered uncontrollably, as if the very specter of Nazi evil were before her. Her visceral reaction speaks not only to the artist's ability to convey the terror that Göth instilled, but also to the truthfulness with which Spielberg portrayed the cruelty of those dark days. Through the testimonies of those who survived his atrocities and the cinematographic representations that immortalized his crimes, Göth's dark legacy will forever remain in the most condemnable place in humanity. His infamous role as the Butcher of Krakow not only left a trail of suffering and death, but also served as a grim reminder of the depths to which humanity can descend when given over to hatred and intolerance. We are coming to the end of this tragic installment, but before finishing, we did not want to stop asking you, do you think there was any character more sinister and bloodthirsty than the Butcher of Krakow? We look forward to reading your valuable comments and appreciate your participation. We thank you for reaching the end, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episodes of Military History.